And as has been the norm in the last few weeks, especially, and even beyond that, we are starting the week in free-for-all mode with your open phones about anything you want. And always coming off the weekend, we always get a lot of good calls from people wanting to recap something from the weekend, something they thought about on the weekend they wanted to ask about, maybe a show you saw over the weekend that you wanted to comment on and bring up. It is all good. So we'll get to those phones here today to hear from you early and often. Again, 844-686-5863 is the number to use. As we look at guests this week, we do have a return, a relatively recent return to the show from drummer Matt Sorum. The benefit concert that Matt did in Palm Springs a couple months ago with that all-star cast is coming out, and he wants to call in and talk about that. I told you guys when I talked about that last week on the show, I'm fascinated that Matt is able to get this out this quickly, given all the incredible problems I've had with my own concert over 2 years ago getting it out. So my main question for Matt when he's on with us on Thursday is, how the hell did you do this? I don't know. Maybe Matt just doesn't care. Maybe Matt found some loophole. I don't know. I don't know. Also this week, we're going to find out, though, on Wednesday, Dave Pirner of Soul Asylum is on the show. We were originally going to do an in-studio with Pirner. That was actually scheduled for this Friday, but now Soul Asylum is not going to be here in Vegas, as the show they were scheduled to do this coming weekend was canceled. So he is now no longer coming to town. So as a result, we will no longer be having him in studio, but we will welcome him on the phone as a guest joining us this coming Wednesday. And it's always fun to talk to DP, and we'll see what he has to say when he joins us on Wednesday's show. We'll let you know what we're going to do tomorrow. A few things floating around out there. I just got to, get my head around it and figure it out. And maybe we'll do either a call-in theme show or maybe potentially get a guest as well. We'll see. I feel like now, as we're already rapidly approaching here mid-August, you're getting some news about things happening towards the back end of the year. You're already hearing about things happening early next year. And you also start to get into that mode as we get closer and closer to the Labor Day holiday weekend, where people start to wind down a little bit as well already. And here in Vegas, I was watching the local news this morning. I can't believe this. They went back to school here today in Vegas, the kids. I mean, that is crazy. Now, I know they get out way earlier. I mean, growing up and still living a little bit of the time in New Jersey, I'm used to that school program schedule, which is basically, kids get out around Memorial Day and go back right after Labor Day. But in other parts of the country, it's crazy early. And here in Vegas, I know all the schools open today, and here they are back in school already. So no matter where, depending upon where you are in the country, that might already be happening. I was in a Costco the other day. They already had Halloween stuff up. I mean, you're going to start seeing commercials for Thanksgiving any day. Timelines keep getting accelerated. And as you get older, that's not good. And I know something about getting older because I turned 62 on Saturday. And I bring it up because I want to give a huge thank you to all of you guys who wished me a happy birthday on Saturday, whether it was via social media, whether I know you and you texted me or emailed me or what have you. A variety of stuff came in on Saturday from a variety of different outlets, and it was all very, very nice, and I appreciate all of it tremendously. I really do. I was driving on Saturday with Andy Parker, the drummer from UFO, and we were doing a 3-hour drive from San Antonio to Houston. And I was in the back seat of the car while his friend Tom drove us. And I, at one point, just had to mute the phone because I was talking to Andy the whole ride, and the phone just kept pinging and pinging and pinging. And he goes, "What's going on?" I said, "It's my birthday." He goes, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Everybody's texting me, hitting me up." So it was very, very nice. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. I did my best to get back to as many people as I could. I saw the stuff on socials, and, whether it was a listener or a friend or somebody in a major band, I heard from all kinds of people, and it was just wonderful. So thank you for making it special and very cool and less painful, turning a number I still can't even get out of my mouth. I said to somebody, I think I'm officially a senior citizen now. They said, no, you hit that a while ago. I said, really? They said, yeah. They said, apparently in some areas, senior citizen is like 55 now, which means I hit it 7 years ago. I always thought it was 62. Whatever it is, it's old. Sucks. But nothing you can do about it, and it beats the alternative, as I always say. And I've always said as well that I do believe rock and roll keeps us young, and I will keep telling myself that and keep powering through. So I spent the weekend in Texas, and I was in San Antonio on Friday night at Fitzgerald's, second time there. And I was just, had an amazing time there, meeting so many listeners and fans. It was incredible. I would say there was probably about 300 people roughly in the club, which was full for this club because it's not a huge place. And I pulled up to the venue, and the security guy working out front said to me, "Hey, you're Eddie, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you better get ready." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "There's a lot of people in there asking about you when you're coming." I said, "Oh, okay, cool." And then I walked in the door, and it was like, boom. People just, I think I took photos with everybody in there, and people buying me beer and just coming over and saying hello. And it was wonderful. People gave me things, just little, cool things from either the actual, history of San Antonio, history of the venue, just things. I walk out of places with a bag of just various things, whether it's like something like a sticker, a demo, a little gift, a card. So I accumulate things amazingly on the road. And I, again, thank everybody. It was like a sauna in there because Texas is incredibly humid, which is something I am not at all used to being in Vegas anymore. But it was super humid, and at times smelled like a locker room after a basketball game from a men's basketball team. It was rough. It was crazy humid in there, but it was fun. It was sweaty. It was rock and roll, and had a great time. So my second time in San Antonio, and that was a lot of fun. And of course, for both of these events, I was there to host shows with the UFO tribute Lights Out that features UFO's drummer Andy Parker. We'll get into that in a second. So then that was Friday, and then Saturday I drove with Andy to Houston, 3-hour drive, and we got there, and then Saturday night, John Adams, who is the guitarist in this band and the guy who leads the whole thing, put together a group of people at a great steakhouse I've gone to a few times in Houston called B&B. And we went there and had pretty much everybody in the band but one member, Barry Sparks, didn't make it. But the rest of the guys in the band were all there and some friends. And we just Had a great dinner. I sat with Andy hearing UFO stories all weekend. I mean, what's better than that? One of my all-time favorite bands, being with the founding member. Andy's just the best guy. And he was so cool. Let me tell you what Andy Parker gave me for my birthday, being a huge UFO fan. And if you saw this, I posted it on social media. I always told him, because he used to always ask me when I saw UFO for the first time, and I always told him it was in 1981, Rutgers Athletic Center. They were opening for Cheap Trick. So Andy went and found a poster from that tour, not that exact show, but a poster from that tour. But he found a ticket, a full ticket from that actual concert, the actual concert I went to, mounted it under glass and gave it to me. So friggin' cool. And that's, so I probably have the ticket stub at some point, but this is the full ticket. And I used to always tell Andy that I remember the show for a lot of reasons, but I really remember it because it was a massive snowstorm. And I don't even think I was driving yet. But my friend drove me at the time. He was a couple years older. And I remember we drove in this horrendous snowstorm. And we got there and there was nobody there. There was nobody there because it snowed. People didn't want to go out in the snow. But we went. And it was super memorable for that. So really, really cool thing for Andy to have done. And again, everybody was just great on the weekend. The dinner was great. People gave me various little gifts like that. And it really felt cool. And again, hearing UFO stories and spending the whole weekend with Andy was super cool. And a bunch of great fans. So we got to Houston on Saturday. We did that Saturday night. And then yesterday was the second concert, which was for Lights Out, playing at the Warehouse, which I've gone to and hosted shows at many, many times. Justin, the owner, is a friend. And I saw him for lunch yesterday. And then last night hosted the show for Lights Out, which also featured last night, more yesterday afternoon, because it was a day thing, featured a Queensryche tribute and an Iron Maiden tribute. Queensryche tribute was called Mindcrime, and the Iron Maiden tribute was called Power Slave. And what was interesting was both of them had the same singer. This guy, I met him, his name is Drew. I don't know what his last name is, but I forgot. But he sang Jeff Tate perfectly and then segued right into singing Bruce Dickinson very well. It was crazy. I talked to him briefly. I said, I don't know how the hell you did that, man. It was crazy. So shout out to those guys. And then Lights Out played. And, look, I don't know. I've told you guys about this band. And I'm being truthful here. If you are a UFO fan, and judging by what I saw with very full rooms in both venues in Texas this weekend, there are a lot more UFO fans out there than I realized. But if you are a UFO fan or a fan of just incredible melodic hard rock, which is what UFO are to me and others, this is as close to seeing UFO as you're going to get because the band is no longer active. And I keep saying, this is a UFO tribute, but in reality, it has an original member of the band in it, Andy playing drums. So it's no more of a tribute than the current version of, say, Foghat. The only original member in the current version of Foghat is the drummer. This UFO tribute has UFO's drummer in it. So is it a tribute? I mean, by the standards of the touring most bands are doing today, and we'll get into this more in the news here in a second, I don't know. It's kind of a gray area, right? We were talking about this a little over the weekend. It's just so incredible what is happening out there with touring and bands and music, because more and more bands are going out with no original members or maybe just one original member. And whether fans know it and don't care or don't know it and don't care, I don't know. But it's obviously a thing that more and more and more bands are trying to cultivate, if they can do it legally. But I mean, it's rampant right now. And by the way, I don't condone it. I don't agree with it. I think, and I really, really wish people did care and know and were educated who was or was not in a band. But the simple truth is, the vast majority of people have no idea whoever was or was not in some of these bands. They know the name of the band and they know their hit songs. Oh, I'll maybe check that out. To me, that's very sad, but it's why this business model works for touring and making money for some. Of course, again, we talk about it all the time. The benchmark on this is Foreigner, who've been doing it for decades now and are, as we speak, doing it with no original members. As we speak, Foreigner is on a co-headlining tour where neither band has one original member, the other band in this case being Lynyrd Skynyrd. So a UFO tribute that has an actual founding member of the band who played on all the classic records, I don't know. Now, to me, no, it could never be UFO because it doesn't have Phil Mogg. But it's as close as it's going to get, and you got Andy there. And you've got a great lineup with this band. And you've got guys that have played in various versions of the band. You've got Wayne Finley, who plays with Michael Schenker, playing keys and rhythm guitar. Barry Sparks, who played with Dokken and is in played with UFO at one point on bass. The guy whose band it is, John Adams, he plays the Schenker stuff brilliantly. And you got Mark Bowles singing. Mark used to sing with Yngwie. He does a phenomenal job. Mark's got a bunch of history as well. So these are these are guys with all connections to touring pro bands. So it makes sense that they do it extremely, extremely well. And it's a lot of fun. And they're all good dudes. And we just had a great, great weekend. So hosted the show in Houston yesterday for them. Got to the airport, flew back to Vegas last night. And here I am, ready to hang with you guys for the balance of the week. But seriously, it was a really good weekend, and I appreciate all the texts and all the kind words and everybody in the band being so cool, and John putting on that great dinner for me on Saturday. Really, really nice. So that was my 62nd birthday weekend, and what's better than spending it also 2 nights hearing music of a band that I love so much, even though I wish, and I said this to Andy, it would be amazing if Phil would do UFO one more time, one farewell show, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So in the absence of that, this is about the best we're going to get. All right, so moving forward from that, a bunch of other news to rip through here real quick, and then we're going to get over to you guys on the phones. While I was flying back last night, I came across a documentary that I wanted to mention on the plane on Paul McCartney. And it's called, I don't have the exact title in front of me. It's called like McCartney, The Missing Bass, or The Story of the Missing Bass. And what it is a documentary on Paul McCartney's legendary Hofner bass, which had been missing ever since the last Beatles performance where they played on that rooftop at the Apple studio back in the day, around the Let It Be period. And they trace the history of that bass, which Paul McCartney bought as a kid, was very inexpensive, but it became obviously legendary because it was seen in all of the early Beatles performances and was the first bass he had. And it went missing. And this documentary tracks them trying to find that bass. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to finish it because the plane landed. So I have about 20 minutes left to go in it. And I don't know, maybe Joel can tell me where this can be seen online. I'm sure it's on one of the platforms somewhere. Yeah, but I saw it on the back of a seat on a plane.
It's on Apple TV. It's called McCartney, The Hunt for the Lost Bass.
All right, so there you go. I don't know if it's a rental deal or if you have Apple, you can just log in and watch it. But there's, I don't know what the end game is because, again, there was 20 minutes left when they were just getting to finding it. So I didn't get a chance to see how it ended, but I do know they find it. McCartney himself is in it. They also talk to his brother. They trace the story of this. They find photos where the bass can still be seen because it had become his backup bass at one point. But it was a fascinating doc. The other thing about it is, if you end up watching this, it ties in Lemmy. Lemmy is in the documentary in old footage because they show footage of Hawkwind. And for those that know, Hawkwind was a band that Lemmy was in prior to Motorhead. They were kind of like a psychedelic heavy rock band. And they made a bunch of records. And it was Lemmy's first band. Well, I don't know if it was first band, but it was his first band of note. So they start to talk about the fact that at one point, the Beatles or McCartney, they were rehearsing in an area where Hawkwind was. And I guess Hawkwind had some sketchy people in it at the time. And they start to allege and think that somebody from Hawkwind busted into the truck and stole the McCartney's bass. And they show you footage of Hawkwind rehearsing, and you see a young Lemmy in there playing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But anyway, if it's on Apple, I'll try to finish it off and watch the last 20 minutes. But I had no idea this existed. I never even heard about this documentary. So there's another one for you if that sounds of interest to you. McCartney, The Hunt for the Lost Bass. And McCartney was fully involved in it, obviously. He is in it in a brand new interview. Let's see. On a completely other end of music, the other guy in the McCartney doc, by the way, is Elvis Costello. He has something to do with the story as well, so I'll throw that out at you as well. I don't know how anybody would ever buy a ticket to go see the artist Morrissey, ever. I mean, this guy is canceling shows left and right for a few years now for a myriad of reasons. Whether they are legitimate, not legitimate, he's making shit up, he's whacked out of his head, he's a hypochondriac, I don't know. But Morrissey is just canceling shows constantly. I don't even know how promoters are still taking a chance on booking the guy. And he will cancel for any reason. If you remember, he canceled some shows, I think it was in Brazil or something not long ago, because he said there was an EDM music playing near his hotel and he didn't get enough sleep to perform. Now, as somebody who hates noise when they're trying to sleep of any kind, and I'm woken up very easily, I understand that to a degree. But I mean, if you've got the resources of somebody like Morrissey, you move your hotel, you move to another room, you move to another hotel, you sleep all day if you need to. You don't need to be on stage till 8, and you do the show for an hour and a half. Now, Morrissey was supposed to play here in Vegas. 4 shows, some of them were sold out already, and he has now canceled those, citing logistics. I mean, it's endless. And look, I know Morrissey is not a big deal with my audience, so probably very few of you listening care about this and would be affected by this. But it just speaks to a bigger thing. I mean, this guy is off his rocker with all these cancellations. And what really sucks, especially with these cancellations in Vegas, which has been brought up a few times here locally, is that, as we know and talk about all the time, Vegas is without question the entertainment capital, and that is why all these artists do residencies here, because people come from all over the country and all over the world to spend time here to do other things. And then, of course, the reason will be these concerts or these events. You know, whether it's a big show, a small show, the Sphere, whether it's, you know, whatever residency, that's why it all happens here. So people plan trips from all over the country and all over the world around this stuff. So it really sucks because the vast majority of people probably going to these shows in Vegas do not live here. They were coming as part of a vacation they built around this, and now that's all turned sideways. I mean, I'm sure most people will still come and still do whatever they're going to do in town and take advantage of what there is to do here, but still, if you were coming and that's the reason, it sucks. I was just in a hotel. I was at a Marriott at the airport in San Antonio on Thursday and Friday night. And when I tell you it was at the airport, it was like on the grounds of the airport almost. So I got to my room late Thursday night. It's fairly quiet. When I check into a hotel, I always tell the person at the desk, I don't care. I don't care about a view. I don't care. Like, my favorite view in a hotel room is when I pull the curtain and look at the window and there's a brick wall. Because that means there's going to be no noise out there. I just don't want noise. So I always tell the people when I check into a hotel, I'm like, hey, I don't care about view. Put me up high, put me looking internally, put me wherever the least out external noise is. So I get to my room Thursday night. It was late. It was probably like midnight. Lay down, finally go to sleep. I swear about 6:30 in the morning, it sounded like 747s were landing in my room. So I get up and I pull the curtains. I'm like, what the fuck? And sure enough, like literally across the driveway of the hotel, there are planes landing at the San Antonio airport. You know, sometimes you stay at an airport hotel and it's like in the vicinity of the airport. This was like practically on the runway. So the room was like shaking. So I wake up and I went to the front desk. I'm like, hey, yeah. And the next day I saw the guys in the band. I was like, you guys had that problem this morning? And they said, no, it's pretty quiet. I go, well, where the hell? It's not that big of a hotel. Where the hell are you? They go, we're facing internally towards the pool. So I went to the front desk. I said, hey, can you move me? Give me a room facing the inside of the hotel. They did. Didn't hear a thing the next morning. So note to Morrissey, who has way more resources than me. Guys canceling shows like crazy. A few years ago, he canceled the show because the venue was serving hot dogs and he's a vegan. That won't go on. Crazy. So be warned. Again, I don't know how many people in my audience will go to Morrissey. I'm sure there's a few, but you know what's going on with this guy. It's crazy. Led by Vultures is the new project from my friend drummer Brian Tichy, who plays all the instruments on the record. Third track released from his debut album with this project called Waves, coming out on August. The single and video out now. The full album coming August 28th. Tichy currently the drummer in the Gene Simmons Band. Sure we'll do something with Brian soon. He's all over me about this, and you will hear from him about it. But good stuff. This one more of a acoustic-y type of tune. I'll try to play it for you later on the Hair Nation show. Of course, today being Monday, back-to-back shows for you starting at 5 Eastern. I'll be over on 39 for 3 hours. With music, talk, and requests. I found this interesting on a number of levels. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley are going to throw out the ceremonial first pitch at a LA Angels game, formerly the Anaheim Angels, this coming Saturday. Their opponent will be the Kansas City Royals. I've mentioned this a few times. Ever since Kiss kind of retired, Paul and Gene are clearly missing the attention that comes with being in Kiss. And look, that's a thing. I mean, I've talked to people, friends of mine who are professional athletes. You wonder why some artists cannot retire. They cannot just go away. They cannot just leave the spotlight. You've got baseball players spend their whole life on the road. The minute they retire, they're in the booth calling games. They got hundreds of millions of dollars. They're in the booth calling games. I asked a friend of mine who's a pro athlete, why is that? They can't leave the attention. And they can't leave the reality of they can't go back to the reality of domestic life. I got to think there's a little bit of that going on with these guys because, again, the minute Kiss ended, Gene went right on the road with his solo band. They do podcasts like demons. There's not a podcast they don't do. And now they're throwing out this first pitch. All good. Do whatever you want. I mean, they're up to them, of course, how they want to lead their life in whatever mode it's in at the moment. But the thing about this that I'm curious about is, how do two people throw out the first pitch? Are they going to do two first pitches? Is there going to be a first pitch and a second pitch? And if that's how they do it, who gets the first and who gets the second? If you know anything about the dynamic between Gene and Paul, that could be a huge thing. If Gene gets it before Paul, he gets first and Paul gets second. Good luck on that. So I've never heard of two people doing one first pitch. The other thing about this that I think is interesting is that doing a pitch from the mound on a major league scale is very difficult. I mean, I probably couldn't do it, and I'm, 13, 15 years younger than those guys. It is, look no further than Sirius XM's own Baba Booey, Gary Dell'Abate with the most legendary first pitch ever that went into a whole nother area. So, I mean, especially Paul keeps himself in tremendous physical shape. But man, to throw a first pitch is a lot of pressure and can be extraordinarily embarrassing. Again, look no further than what happened to Gary, which was probably 15, 20 years ago, and it's still goofed on. So I'm really curious on two levels, how they're going to do a two people first pitch, and also how well they're able to execute the pitch. Because I could tell you right now, if I had to do it from a major league mound, I probably would be worse than Gary's pitch. And I used to be all right playing baseball. I haven't thrown a pitch in forever. It's not as easy as you'd think. Joel's telling me, multiple person first pitches are usually done simultaneously. Okay, so you put two people on the mound and you have two, then you got to have two catchers.
Yep. Yeah, you'll usually have two people out there throwing at the same time to two separate catchers. Usually in that instance, they'll throw from right in front of the mound.
So it's not the full length of the mound. It's not the full distance.
No, usually not, especially because then you'll have them kind of both standing on, the downslope of the side of the mounds as well. They'll usually be, when it's multiple people, they'll usually be standing right in front of the mound and throw at the same time.
All right, and here's the other thing then. We know there's an ultra competitive thing that goes on between these guys. No doubt partners, brothers forever, but undeniable. There's a thing. So what if one of them does a good pitch and the other hooks into the stands? There's so many layers to this. If you know the dynamic here, I find it incredibly fascinating. My money is on Paul to make the better pitch because he seems to be the way more athletic of the two. And again, he's in phenomenal physical condition for his age or any age. But who knows? Gene might surprise you. I don't know. I don't think either of these guys were ever tremendously into sports. It's a very difficult thing. So my point about all this is we're seeing these guys do all these different things now, again, in whatever you want to call this, semi-retirement, whatever. And it opens them up to a real potentially disastrous thing being goofed on because it's not as easy as people think. And I don't know, if I can only speak if I was in their shoes and in their position with all the fame and fortune that they have in the music world. I don't know what the upside of doing this is beyond the attention and publicity of it for a local baseball team. I don't even know how much it buys you. But here I am talking about it on a national radio show, so I guess it does. But I don't know what the end game reason to do it is beyond just saying you did it. But it's not an easy thing to do at all. And there can be a fair amount of humiliation that comes with it for a really long time. Look no further than Baba Booey, who Joel says did that pitch for the Mets. It was for the Mets, wasn't it? Because I know Gary. Gary's a huge Mets fan. Like
yeah, it was Citi Field.
Every time I see Gary, he comes up to me and he says, I got a Piazza jersey. You got to help me get it signed. I was like, dude, Mike lives in Italy. Go there. I don't know what to tell you. Although Mike called me for my birthday. I didn't even listen to the message yet. So maybe he's here. I don't know. So I am curious. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe Gene and Paul will throw strikes right down the middle to both catchers. I don't know. But I brought that story up because I just think it's interesting and there's a lot of ripples to it as you just kind of broke down. Congratulations to my good friend and one of our Canadian Roundtable participants, and you know him from Slash's band and Toque and recently Triumph, Brent Fitz. Fitzy had a street named after him. He is from Winnipeg, Canada, and there is now a Brent Fitz Way, I think it is. There was a nice ceremony there. There was people, myself included, that made little videos congratulating him. I texted with him afterwards. He was super appreciative and really honored, as he should be. Really, really cool thing for Brent. So congratulations to him. And if you happen to be listening in Winnipeg, go check out Brent Fitz Way. The sign is up. Really, really cool. He is still, we have been trying to get a Canadian Roundtable and get those guys in the room here with me for a while now. But they are extraordinarily busy, both Todd Kearns and Fitz. Fitz is still in Canada. He told me he's coming back the day I leave Vegas to go to the mountain in Tennessee. So we are going to miss each other once again, but we're going to do it at some point. The band Chicago added additional dates, September 17th through November 18th. Speaking of bands with how many original members, I am pretty sure, don't totally quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Chicago is down to one original member. So again, no different than the UFO band that's billed as a tribute that I was with all weekend. Kansas, who I believe are down to no original members in terms of touring. A couple of the guys still say, kind of like Mick Jones still is like overseas foreigner, but doesn't play the shows anymore. There's a little of that going on, but I don't believe Kansas has any original members anymore in the active current touring band. So again, you see my point. They've added additional headlining shows October 4 through November 1. They are also currently out doing shows with Deep Purple. Leonard Skinner, again, no original members technically there. Added additional shows September and November of this year, currently touring with Foreigner. Neither band has technically an original member. I say technically with Skinner, you get a little bit of an asterisk because obviously Ronnie Van Zant died. It's his brother Johnny singing. Also, Ricky Medlock has some early history with Skinner. So there's a little asterisk on Skinner, but Foreigner, there's no asterisk. There's just simply nobody original at all. But anyway, this is a co-headline tour, but these dates are Skinner headline dates, additional ones added. And Foo Fighters who are currently on tour in America, released a live EP, their second. It's in a series called Foo Fighters Are Playing Where? And this is volume 2. It is a live EP of some of their more recent recordings. All right, so that's what I got for you. Joel, what do you got? Anything?
Yeah, I just want to add a release from Friday because it came up a couple of months ago when we had Phil Collin on the show. He was talking about a single he was working on with Mutt Lange for Crossbones Skully. And then we didn't hear much about it, pretty much at all after that. Well, that single came out on Friday. It's called Thunder Love, and I'll play a little bit of it as we go to break here.
Okay, and find Tishy's Led by Vultures, Waves, play a little of that in one of the other break as well. So
you got
we can hear a little bit of that as well. Yeah, I talked to Tommy. Crossbones Skully is Tommy Henriksen from Alice Cooper's band's project. Tommy sounds exactly like Bon Scott meets Brian Johnson. It's very AC/DC. Mutt Lange is involved in it. Tommy lives in Switzerland, even though he's from America, New York. I mean, he's lived in Switzerland for a while. So he has some connection to Mutt Lange, and it's really good stuff. And the current guitar player in Alice Cooper's band, Anna Cara, who is filling in for Nita Strauss, she is also in Crossbones Skully. That's where she came from to join Alice's band. So there's a second record coming out, and I'm sure we'll do something with Tommy when it gets closer. And I will probably, these songs you'll hear parts of right now, I'll probably play in full for you later on in the Hair Nation show if you would like to hear them in their entirety. But of course, both of these are out, so they're a click away as well. All right, thank you for that, Joel. And again, we turn it over to you guys now for the next hour and 15, getting started here on a Monday here on Trunk Nation. Again, our phone number is 844-686-5863. 844-686-5863. What's on your mind? What do you want to bring up? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to ask about? What did you see over the weekend? We'll hear from you going to the phones after this on Trunk Nation.
Now more hard and heavy conversation.
This makes you move.
Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk.
And I want more.
Sirius XM Faction Talk.
Trunk Nation, awesome.
Okay, we're back. Let's get into it with you guys on the phones. We got open lines. Anything you want to get into today to start the week here on Trunk Nation, 844-686-5863. We will begin in Houston. Larry is our first caller today. What's going on, Larry?
Hey, Eddie, welcome. I'm glad to be here. First-time caller.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have seen a UFO tribute this weekend. I was wanting to chat with you about that.
So you were at the show that I was at Warehouse yesterday?
Yes, sir, last night in Houston. Yeah, I'm from San Antonio, but I couldn't make it there. But I understand that show was a knockout as well. And I also went to Chicago, and I just wanted to comment on Mark Bowles. That guy is a powerful singer, and he was able to just channel himself and deliver Phil Mogg like the conversationalist singer he is. And I thought that was quite impressive. And bravo to him and to John Adams and the whole band. And Andy Parker. It was really amazing. So I'm glad you got to see it as well. And thanks for coming and hosting for us, too.
Yeah, well, it's always fun to come there at Warehouse and come to Houston. And yeah, Larry, I could not stay for the entire show yesterday because I had to get to the airport to get my flight. So I made about 40 minutes of it, and then I had to thank you, Larry, and I had to get to the airport to catch a plane out of there. But I have seen the band now, probably this version of the band, probably like 4 times. It was like the 4th time. And it's tremendous. And you're right, Mark Bowles, who has been around for a while, and Mark lived here in Vegas for a long time. He left here. He moved to Ohio, he was telling me a couple months ago. But he is a great singer. He really is. And I said to Mark Bowles, when I first saw him do this a few months ago, I said to him that he, in my view, if Schenker ever goes out and does the UFO shows that he did recently, remember Michael Schenker toured all over the world playing all UFO songs, which of course he has every right to do because he's co-writer of just about every one of them and an enormous part of all of them. But the singer he used on the American dates, many people felt, now I did not see the show, but many people felt was not the right type of singer to sing UFO. If Michael ever does that again, he should call Mark Bowles because Mark nails it. But I don't know if he's ever going to do that again. In Europe, Schenker used Eric Gronwall. And from the stuff I saw online, Eric did a good job as well. Eric's voice worked for that. The guy he used in America, I don't know his name, but he had a very gruff kind of voice, more of a rough voice, and that's just not the type of vocal or even the presentation of vocal for music like UFO, which is just, Phil Mogg's voice is just so incredible. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm glad you came out, and it was cool being there at Warehouse. Here's Chris in Massachusetts. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
I just wanted to call and say I've bought Morrissey tickets on 2 occasions, and the first time was in December 2017. He was supposed to be at the Orpheum in Boston, and he canceled because he said the theater was too cold. And then I just bought a ticket to see him at MGM Hall at Fenway last year, and he canceled because he said he got a death threat from somebody in Canada near Montreal. It was like an online threat. So, he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I remember years ago there was a show he was doing, and I know he's a vegan, and he's very passionate about that, and
Right.
to each their own. I got no issue with that, but he canceled. I remember clearly he canceled a show somewhere because it was other bands on the bill. I don't remember what the venue was, but he got pissed off that they were selling hot dogs at the concession stand, and apparently he said that he didn't want hot dogs sold, and he found out they were, so he canceled the show. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if you're Christopher, if you're a big Morrissey fan, I mean, what do you think's going on here? Is it just an attention thing? Is he just whacked?
I know he's like really controversial with his politics and stuff. He's kind of a interesting person. I don't really care for his politics, but I like his music. But he's supposed to be in Lowell in like a few weeks, and I did not buy tickets for that. I smartened up, but
well, did you get refunds all the other times he canceled?
Yes, I did. And when I was in supposed to go last year in September, I already had a room booked and all that. So I found out a show right across the street at House of Blues, and I saw a great alternative music band called Wolf Alice. I went there knowing nothing about them, and it was a great show,
Well, I'm glad you were able to salvage your trip, Christopher. Thank you for the call. Much appreciated. If you tuned in late, again, you can always rewind and hear from the beginning on the app. But if you tuned in late, we were just talking about what's going on with Morrissey. This guy just cancels, as you just heard, cancel shows left and right, and had 4 shows here in Vegas and blew them out, just citing logistic issue. Like, you're a professional touring musician for decades. What is the logistic issue? You've known for months, it's been on your schedule, that you've got 4 shows in Vegas. Like, what? Just something really, really weird. And I almost think with some of these guys, they're like attention mechanisms. It's about getting attention. Even if it's for the wrong reason. There's people that just need to do things to generate attention, even if it's negative. It's really, really odd. But if I'm managing that guy, or I'm somebody considering booking a date, I know. Look, I know if you can sell tickets, as we've talked about before, promoters will look past anything, because all they care about at the end of the day is selling tickets. They don't care what the genre of music is, whether they like it or not, who is or isn't in the band, if it's fake or on tracks. They don't care about anything. But can you sell tickets? Can you fill seats? But where does the line come? Okay, so put all that stuff in the equation, fine. Where's the line come where you sell tickets, but then you got more than a 50% chance that you're going to have to give your money back, take a loss because the guy doesn't show up for the shows? And we had Duff McKagan on the show last week, and I don't remember if I got into this with Duff or not, but I wanted to, but we had limited time with him. So I didn't get a chance to really get into a lot that I wanted to with Duff. But, we remember, you all should remember, when Axl Rose, for years with Guns N' Roses, was going on at 11:30, 12 o'clock, 12:30, playing till 3:30 in the morning. I mean, it had become the norm. There was shows they did in England where people wanted a refund because in England, you've got to take public transportation for the most part to get to the gigs in London or whatever. And the public transportation stops at a certain point. And not only could the fans not get home if they didn't get out of the venue by a certain time, but the people that work in the venues, the concession people they couldn't get home. They were stuck. So people were just like walking out of the concerts and there was all this revolt. But do you guys remember, I mean, pre-reunion with Slash and Duff, so meaning 10 years ago, all those Guns N' Roses shows, you guys probably went to them. I'm sure there's people listening right now that are nodding their head like, yep, we went. You didn't know what time they were going to go on. It was like, are they going to go on at 9? Are they going to go on at 10? Are they going to go on at 11? Are they going to go on at 12? People would stand around in the hallways. People would be sitting there drinking beers. I mean, I got a million stories from all that. I went to Madison Square Garden to see one of those shows. I think Buckethead was in the band. I was with Piazza. And we were lucky enough to have passes. We were backstage before the show. They had an open bar for their guests. We got hammered because they didn't go on till like midnight. And then, the overages that costs, the money that costs when you go into overages with these venues and union venues, it's crazy. It puts so much strain on everything and everybody. And it was happening nonstop with GNR on all these versions of the band, with Ashba in there, Bumblefoot in there, Buckethead in there, all those various versions. And every time, even in the TV interview I did with Axl, we brought it up, and he's like, well, we're working on that. I did a radio interview with him around that time. He said, well, we're working on that. We're working on that. Well, you know what? It got fixed immediately when Slash and Duff came back in the band. I mentioned this the other day. The interesting thing is, it did go on the very first two shows of the reunion. 2016, here in Vegas, T-Mobile, 2 nights, the first proper shows they played back with Slash and Duff, they did go on crazy late still. But right after that, boom. However, it had to get fixed. Interestingly, it got fixed immediately when those guys came back in. I don't know this for a fact. I got to think they just said, hey, we ain't doing this reunion if we're not going on at a normal time. But for years, Axl didn't care. I could tell you guys stories for weeks just about my limited interactions with that band and Axl at that time. Because at that time, I did a radio interview with them, and we had him on that metal show. And I had other behind-the-scenes interactions with them. I'm not saying any of them were bad, by the way. Just interesting in retrospect. But it got fixed really, really quickly. One last thing on this before I go to another call, and I wanted to mention this, and I'm glad that this came into my head, bringing the gun stuff up. But the reason why I'm bringing the gun stuff up is, it ties into the thing with Morrissey. Morrissey's can't seem to play a show without canceling, like 50-50. Back then, Axl couldn't find a way to go on before 11:30 at night and play a 3-hour show still. It was brutal, especially on weekdays for people. And you just wonder what it is. Is it an attention thing? Is it a disconnect thing? Is it a crew thing? Is it a management thing? At the end of the day, it happens once, maybe, but there's no excuse for it to happen on a continuous basis. But the other thing I wanted to mention, going back to Axl and Guns at that time, during that time, Guns N' Roses, again, I'm talking pre-reunion, Guns N' Roses had multiple managers that came and went nonstop, probably because of all the craziness that was seemingly going on. And one of those managers was a guy named Peter Katzis. And you may have seen these posts online, including my own social media. It was announced on, I believe, Friday, that Peter passed away at 69 years old due to a heart issue. And I knew Peter and worked with him from time to time, and was a wonderful guy and managed a lot of different artists in his career, and did work with the Smashing Pumpkins. I personally dealt with him when we had Gavin Rossdale in the studio a few years ago. Peter brought him in. He was managing Bush. And I also dealt with Peter because at the time that we did the TV interview with Guns N' Roses for that metal show, with Axl, and Ashba was sitting in on it, Peter was managing the band. He was only managing the band for about 6 months, but he was the guy that made that interview with Axl happen for that metal show back then. And we would often, he and I, when we would see each other, in recent years, would laugh about that because it was so crazy, and the stories for that, it could go on for days. But rest in peace, Peter Katzis. I mean, so many times we remember people who are famous musicians, what have you, and that's all well and good when they pass away. But people behind the scenes in the industry that are important should be acknowledged as well. So I wanted to make sure I brought that up. Here's Cliff in North Carolina. Go ahead, Cliff. What's happening, man?
Real quick, bro. July 1992, Giant Stadium, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Faith No More, on a fucking Wednesday. Axl, they pulled that shit. GNR did. I think they went on at like 11:30. I mean, we left. We saw one fucking song. We had an hour and a half drive back down to Toms River to go to work the next day. But yeah, man, I experienced it firsthand, bro. You were probably at that show.
I don't remember that. I don't think I was, but I'll tell you, you bring up a good point there, Cliff, because obviously the history of the insanity around Guns N' Roses shows goes back to the original band or back at that time. But back then, I think it was for a different reason. Back then, it was because I don't think that those guys were out of their skull loaded. They'll be the first to tell you that. So they didn't know what they didn't know which way was up at the time. But during the Ashba, Bumblefoot, Buckethead period of time, those versions, I don't know what that was about. Was there partying going on? Absolutely, but I don't know what it was about. I don't think it was about that. I just think it was a control thing. I think it was just an attention thing. And look, to some degree, you could make the case that even though in the moment this stuff sucks, when it happens to you as a fan, at the end of the day, it does create the end result of people remembering and talking about it, because here we are. You're bringing up something from 92 in 2026.
Yeah. Dude, there is no such thing as bad publicity. Like zero. But, anyway, brother, happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you.
And absolutely, I get to celebrate mine this Friday. And I get to do it on... Yeah.
Happy to you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I get to spend it on stage with my Genesis tribute. We got a couple of shows this weekend, so I'll get to share it with a couple thousand people.
There you go. Nice.
But, oh yeah, it's going to be fun. But anyway, the main reason for my call, I've been hitting a lot of shows the past couple of weeks. Road tripped up to Boston to see Fish. My girlfriend loves Fish. So we went up to Boston to see them at Fenway. Not really a fan, but I got to tell you, man, I get it. Those guys were amazing. Fenway Park, it was so cool to see them in Fenway. Then the very next night, we saw Rush at the Garden. Phenomenal. Wish I could have stayed the rest of the shows, but we'll see them when they come here in Charlotte in November. And then this past weekend, I got one for your freak category, bro. Because we just saw Bryan Adams and Pat Benatar, and Pat Benatar at 73, dude. Fucking unbelievable, bro. I mean, they were, being a musician, I can tell when artists tune down and stuff like that. Dude, she was singing in the original key, bro. Like, they didn't tune anything down. Same thing with Bryan Adams, man. I mean, Bryan sounded phenomenal.
Yeah.
Packed house at the Spectrum Center. It's a hockey basketball arena, so they had a packed house here in Charlotte, and it was phenomenal. And got Brit Floyd tomorrow night, so hitting all the shows, bro.
All right, Cliff. Well, you enjoy it, man, and an early happy birthday to you. Thank you for your call. I got to run. Pat Benatar, I mean, I've not seen her. It's been a few years. I saw her last at that event that I co-host in Cancun, the Sands, which is coming up again in a couple months. And she was on that, 3-4 years ago. I remember I was so pissed because, as you know, I do a few radio shows from that. It's like a week-long event, and I usually do a few shows from it. And we had her lined up to come over with Neil and sit down and do the show. And that day I could not get the connection on the radio gear that I needed to get connected. So we had to tell her not to come because I couldn't do a show that day because for whatever reason, the internet went down at the resort or where I was broadcasting from. But yeah, I saw her there, and I saw her a few years earlier than that. And yeah, she can still sing incredibly well. It's still amazing to me though, because she still won't do Hit Me With Your Best Shot. I don't know if you guys know that. Pat Benatar does not and has not in recent years sung and performed Hit Me With Your Best Shot, one of her biggest songs. Because I believe, and I believe she made some sort of connection to it with violence or gun violence. I mean, look, gun violence an issue, of course, but my God, is that a stretch? Plus, the song's not even about that. You know, it's always, you know, I always took it as like a bounce back relationship song. Like, what? But she won't do it anymore. I mean, she's got enough other big songs, but still, that's incredible. She's also doing a headline show coming up here in Vegas, and I was going to try to go to that and try to even get her and Neil on around that time, but I don't think I'm going to be in town then when that happens. I checked my schedule. But yeah, that tour that's been going out there with Bryan Adams has been a good double bill for sure. And I mentioned this to you guys a few times, and as Cliff brings up, you know, Pat singing incredibly well and truly singing, Bryan Adams still truly singing incredibly well. I will once again bring this YouTube channel up. I cannot tell you how important it is if you're really interested. I think this guy is doing incredible work. Look at a YouTube channel called Wings of Pegasus. I mentioned it a few times recently. This guy, young guy, who clearly knows audio and engineering and computers and what's happening and what's real and what's not, is doing stuff every day, showing you what's really going on and not going on with certain singers. I will leave it at that. And it is eye-opening and revealing and shows you in detail the truth. There are so many that are lying to you. And this is laying it out there. And today I noticed his most recent post and his most recent video, and he said he started another channel where on that one, he's going to celebrate and showcase the artists that are truly singing live. Because as much as he enjoys the exposure of the ones that aren't, and the bands that are running nothing but a computer and pretending to play live, he is also rightfully going to celebrate, as I do, the ones that do not do that, and has a channel dedicated to that. He said these will be singers that don't use auto-tune, pitch correction, nothing. They're actually singing a human voice into a microphone. Amazing. Amazing. The guy is doing God's work. If you care about live shows actually still being live, which you should. Joel, what are you sending me here?
Oh, just the reason why Pat Benatar doesn't play that song anymore. She had said in an interview, just like you said, it was out of respect for victims of mass shootings because it includes lyrics like "fire away" and things like that.
But it's not about shooting people with a gun. It's a metaphor. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I got to look at this because I just... Okay. Okay, here's the lyrics. Okay, first of all, she didn't write the song at all. The song is written by somebody named Edward Schwartz. Let me read you the lyrics to this song. You've heard it a million times. Well, you're a real tough cookie with a long history of breaking little hearts like the one in me. That's okay. Let's see how you do it. Put up your dukes. Let's get down to it. Okay, right out of the gate. This song is an anti-love song. Somebody broke their heart. You're not going to break mine. The chorus, hit me with your best shot. Why don't you hit me with your best shot? Hit me with your best shot. Fire away. You come on with it, come on. You don't fight fair, but that's okay. See if I care. Knock me down, it's all in vain. I get right back up on my feet again. Again, love song. Hit me with the best shot. Or you're the real tough cookie with a long history of breaking little hearts like the one in me. Breaking hearts. I mean, it's, it's her prerogative, obviously, to do whatever she wants. It's a song that is extremely popular, that is played constantly on classic rock. It's easily one of her biggest hits. She did not write the song. Nobody in her band wrote the song. And it clearly, right out of the gate, it is, it is a formula for a song that there have been a billion of throughout time. The jilted lover. I never in all my years interpreted that song in any sort of gun way. I always took it as the way you would read that lyric, which is, you break people's hearts. You go out with people and dump them. You use people. All right, try me. Hit me with your best shot. Watch how I bounce back. That's the tone of the song. Not, I'm going to take a gun out and shoot you. It's metaphoric. I mean, she does not do it. But my gosh, I mean, even people whose families were affected by gun violence, I don't know how you'd read that in that at all. Okay, well, again, artist prerogative, but I don't know if this person who wrote the song is still with us or still active, but I'm sure he would be, Edward Schwartz would be the first to tell you, no, read the lyrics. It's about a rebounding from a jilted lover or something, or breakup song, it's a breakup song. 10 billion breakup songs in the history of rock music, or in all music. It's odd. All right. Oh yeah, here's Joel says the guy who wrote it, Eddie Schwartz, is still alive and 76 years old. All right. Maybe he should do a version of it. He should go. Maybe he should put a band together. I mean, he's the one who sits home and collects the royalty checks. And he's not getting any royalties from live performance now because she's not doing it. Wouldn't it be funny if he put a band together and just went around and played that song? Hey, you want to hear it with your best shot live? Here you go. A tour doing nothing but 40 cities of doing that song. It's played over and over again. There are bands that only have one song that's popular, so much so that they play it more than one time in a show. That's happened before. You just see, people ask me all the time, like, dude, how do you talk about, how do you do 5 shows a week? 4 shows, 5 shows a week, 6 shows a week, talking about all this stuff. Like, is there enough there? Like, how do you do that? I'm like, is there enough there? I could do 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. The way my mind goes, it just jumps from one thing to another. You think I came on the air today? I have any idea we were going to be talking about Morrissey and hot dogs and Pat Benatar not doing this song anymore? It's the beauty of this. The demented genius in it for all of us. All right. We got to do one more break here. Let's do it. We'll come back with another half an hour or so. God knows what else we're going to get in.
Now back to talking more of the bands and music you love.
That is exactly
what this is.
This is Trunk Nation
with Eddie Trunk.
Some great live radio.
Sirius XM Faction Talk.
Okay, we are back, and we are working through a Monday with busy phones. Thank you for that. And again, thank you all for the very, very kind birthday wishes on various platforms and ways over the weekend. It is much appreciated. Let's get back to the phones. Say hi to Gene. He's joining us from Smithtown, New York today. What's going on, Gene?
Hey, Eddie. Just belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
Also, big shout out to fans of Trunk Nation Facebook. I've been battling cancer thing, but I am feeling much, much better. They finally mixed up a chemo cocktail that has put me in a better direction. So feeling way better, and all the thoughts that.
Oh, this is Gene Rogers.
That's me.
Hey, Gene. Well, good to hear from you, and I'm glad you're doing well and better, and we're all pulling for you, man. So hang in there, buddy.
Awesome. And if I got Long Island people, my 80s hard rock band is doing a reunion August 28th. So I'm excited about that, being able to
Are
play
you playing in it?
Yeah, I play bass. So
what's the name of the band? Give it a shout out.
Well, the 80s band was Strike Twice, but this was kind of Galaxy. It was pre-Strike Twice. So August 28th, Callahan's. We're opening up for a great other band called Mystery Play. Callahan's, Kings Park, August 28th. So folks are around. Not going to play too long. I still don't have the energy. But I did want to wish you a happy birthday there. And my birthday is coming up. I'll be 62 the end of August, so we're right on the same line there. But I had a point that I don't think we've ever discussed, and it always puzzled me. So think of bands Slaughter, Firehouse, Trickster, all bands that came out, debuted in 1990 or later. Everyone talks about, that was the end of the era, and they had some success. They had top 100 hits. MTV, played them, and not massive hits, not Motley Crue big, Poison big, but had some success and maintained success. And then you had other bands that releases came out a little bit earlier. One of my favorite bands, one of your favorite bands, Vein. Vein came out in '89, and they didn't do anywhere near as well as Firehouse or Slaughter or Trickster. And I always wanted another band to throw out there, the Throbs, and also Shark Island, which I love Shark Island. And these albums came out 89, 90, same as Firehouse, Trickster. And I always think, was it the record labels that didn't promote them enough? Did MTV just not play their videos? And I think there's a reason why the Tricksters, Firehouse, Slaughters kind of broke through a little bit more than the others. It has to do with promotion by the labels, like I said. And I just was wondering if you kind of shared that, because obviously you hear about bands, they just came out too late. It's not the case. Certainly in Vein, they came out in '89. They should have been way bigger.
Yeah, well, the thing about it, Gene, is that there's a degree of it. We all know post 91, you were screwed no matter what. So we know that. But prior to that, you got to remember that not everything, you could go back to 1981 if you wanted to, not everything that came out was going to be successful. Now, what the reason for the lack of success could be a variety of different reasons, but there's a percentage of just obviously bands that aren't going to make it. Just because you came out before 91 didn't mean you're going to get anywhere. So there's that. But when you bring up the three examples you're bringing up, Shark Island, Firehouse, Vein, I think when it comes to Vein, what I recall the problem with Vein, to me, two things. I think, first of all, they were on Island Records, which was not at all known as a hard rock label at all. They were, the home of U2 and, of course, Anthrax, which was their only kind of metal thing. And then because of the success of Anthrax, they decided, we're going to try to dabble a little bit more in hard rock. And I've told the story about Vein before. The president of the label at the time was a friend, and he gave me the Vein advanced cassette, and they looked super glammy, but the record was had this real attitude to it. But I don't think Island Records was ever the right home or had any idea what the right thing to do with them was. And I think so. So that plays a role. And you brought up Firehouse. No, you brought the ones that did make it. Shark Island.
Yeah,
That was more of a West. Shark Island was more of like a West Coast thing, and that was Richard Black, right?
Yep, correct. Yep.
Yeah, and I did. They put out a live record about a year ago that I'm actually do the intro on it because I was at the show that they did in the Whiskey. They did like a reunion show, and I remember that was being shot for some documentary that never ended up coming out. But I don't know much about what went on there, and the Throbs were a big, way more of a New York thing. Danny, who plays in Faster Pussycat now, was in the Throbs.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, like my point, and you've highlighted it, it's just, it was some hit, some didn't. It wasn't just that gate of Nirvana. It was just, just things, whether it was the record company didn't promote them. So that's
sure.
pretty much it. But,
yeah, absolutely.
I got you.
Gene, take care of yourself, man. Feel better, okay? Get well.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, get well, man. All right, there's Gene. Look, throughout history, doesn't matter what era, what decade you want to talk about, there are bands that just didn't make it for whatever reason. Maybe they weren't good enough, didn't have the image, didn't have the management, didn't have the right booking agent, didn't have the right record label. Even if on paper it looks like all the elements are there, great look, great image, great songs, that still doesn't mean anything because there are still all these intangibles that can come into play that you don't make it. But in some cases, it's a variety of different things. When you look at the MTV era, a big part of that era is, did you get your video played? Because if you were able to get your video in a pretty decent rotation back at the height of MTV, you're going to sell 500,000 records. If you looked good, you had hooky songs, and you got a medium level rotation on MTV, you could probably sell 500,000 records in 1987. That's how powerful MTV was. But even then, MTV could not play everything. There was a ton of politics that went into what gets played and didn't get played on MTV. At the height of MTV's power, do you have any idea how many people in the industry were trying to get their stuff on MTV? And the schmoozing that went on, and the dealing, and the behind the scenes stuff, and the push. It was endless. You had this entity that was the most powerful thing that anyone had ever seen in music, that literally overnight could make a record, a platinum record, and make an artist a star. So that was insanely attractive to every manager and label and artist. I got to get on there. But they couldn't do it all, even with 24-hour music videos. They couldn't get it all in. And then if you did get on, okay, maybe you got a little bit of play here and there, but you wanted to move up. You wanted to get better rotations. You wanted to move higher up. I've told this story before. If you guys remember, MTV had a call-in countdown show. It had various names over the years, but I remember the best one was called Dial MTV. And every day, I don't know if it was like 3 o'clock Eastern time or something, they would put a number up on the screen, an 800 number. You would call, and the people who got the most requests would make the top 10 countdown. So the lines would open at 3, the show would air at, say, 5, and then they would show, presumably, the top 10 most requested videos of that day. The labels and managers of bands at that time were so crazy about getting their act's video in that top 10 countdown, because it's how you could break on to the TV, right? If they weren't playing the video already and you were trying to get them to do it, and you could show if people wanted to see it, and you could get on that countdown even at like number 9 that day, then you had your foot in the door And maybe the next day it would go to number 8, number 7, and it would stay on. And then all of a sudden it would become like a regular video on MTV and you're off to the races. That became so powerfully important to the music industry, and I know this for a fact, that at that time, the music industry was essentially hiring kids who were on their way home from school to sit in a room and call that number and dial in the videos and tell the dial number on MTV what video they wanted to hear. Now remember, this is before cell phones. This is obviously before computers. This was a human calling another human who would answer the phone and tell them the video you wanted, and the person on the other end, on the MTV end, would write the video down, and then it would all go into whatever formula, and God knows how legit that was on their end, and say, okay, these are the 10 videos we're showing today. But they would take people, this is a fact, the record labels would have young kids who were just getting out of high school. Say you got out of school at 2:30. Say the MTV switchboard opened at 3. They would ask these kids, basically like interns, to report to the record label office, wherever it was, New York or LA, preferably New York because that would be the same time zone as MTV. And you would go into a room, and in this room, they would have maybe 30 telephones. Again, no cell phones, hardwired phones. And that the day you'd show up, the person at the label would say, okay, today our priority act to have their video played, I don't know, pick anything, Slaughter, Fly to the Angels. So all 30 of those people that day in that room, sitting at desks with phones in their hand, were told, dial the number repeatedly for the hour or two that the switchboard is open. And if you get through, say the video you want to see is Slaughter, Fly to the Angels. They all, so Slaughter was on Chrysalis Records. So in this instance, which is just an example, this would be the Chrysalis Records office. And then, because you didn't always get through, you got busy signals. It was hard to get through. You had everybody from legitimate people across the country trying to call in, and then, of course, other record labels having their people try to call in. So it was like a big deal if you got through in the time that the lines were open. But everyone was told at whatever label that day what the priority act was, and that was the day that if you got through, you told them when they answered the phone, that was what you wanted to hear. So, if you were at the MCA office that day, it might have been Trickster, Give It To Me Good. If you get through, that's what you're calling in and asking for. If you were at the Polygram office, it might have been Kiss, All Night. That's the song. And they were all doing it. Wasn't necessarily illegal, but my point in bringing that story up is, to Gene's point, if you weren't labeled a priority by your label at any point, you might not have gotten that treatment. So Gene brought up a band like Vane that was on Island Records. Well, Island Records also had, on the hard rock side, Anthrax. On the mainstream rock side, U2. At one point, they had Melissa Etheridge, I think. So the day that Island had their people calling, they might have never said, today your priority is Vane. They might have said, today your priority is Melissa Etheridge. And if you don't get that prioritization treatment, you don't have a leg up. One other thing on this, you may say, well, why would these kids have done this? What was in it for them? Well, they didn't get paid, but what they did do was they got free albums. So they would thank them for doing it by giving them like a bundle of like, whatever their new CDs were for the week, which of course at that time was a valuable thing. You get free music. Long before music was just perceived to be free as it is now. So you see, there's so many layers to it as to why a band did or did not make it. At the end of the day, it could be just the band sucked. I mean, there's a lot of bands that were not that good that got signed too. But in some cases, it was just they didn't get the treatment. They didn't have a manager who could leverage them onto tours. They didn't have a manager or a label who could leverage MTV to play their thing. If you had a band, you had a baby band you were trying to get going, but you also had, say, Metallica in your roster, there's a lot of leverage there. You can say, hey, we'll give you an interview with Metallica. We'll give you this exclusive with Metallica, but also, by the way, make sure you got to play Metal Church 10 times. I bring up Metal Church because they were on the same label at the time. I'm just giving you all these names as examples. So there's just so many layers to it. Here's Dave in Austin, Texas. What's up, Dave?
Hey, Eddie. Thanks so much for taking my call. I was at the Romantics, Christopher Cross, and Toto concert in Houston on Friday night. And, your comments about who's left in the band, I mean, Steve Lukather, I think, is probably the only guy in Toto that's original, but I love his guitar playing anyway. One of the things, the sound it was at the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion. I don't know if you're familiar with it. The sound was so crappy that my friends and I could just sit around and talk like there was no band on. I don't know if that's a thing at a lot of outdoor facilities now where people move in too close to it and they got to keep the sound down, but it really sucked. I mean, is
there a residential area around there?
Yeah.
Do people live around there?
Oh yeah, people. There's expensive housing. It's a very posh place in the Houston area in the Woodlands. So there's a lot of well-to-do people around there, and it just really sucked because if it's too loud, you're too old, as the saying goes. So have you gone to shows there before? Yes, I have.
And was this the only one that the volume was low?
Yeah. Absolutely. This was like the first time I've noticed that the speaker arrays that are out in the on the lawn, those weren't on at all. And the Romantics weren't even, I don't even think, going through the system. I think they were just stage volume. It was absolutely horrible. Great show though. I mean, Toto, for only having one guy, they had some musicians that were just lights out. But I mean, the sound, I don't know if that's a common thing that's happening at a lot of outdoor facilities, but it really sucked.
Well, I asked you about people in the area because I had this problem big time at the Greek Theater in LA, which is in a residential area. And I had it a few years ago with Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin show. It was so bad that I left because it was so low, the sound, and so muted sounding. And I found out that there is a volume restriction at that venue because they can't make it too loud because people live in the area and complain. Now, I went to see Youngblood there a few months ago with The Warning, and Youngblood was way better, and it still was not as loud as when I saw Youngblood in Vegas at an indoor venue, but it was way better than when I saw Jason Bonham there. The Warning were not as loud, but they were the opening act. It could have something to do with dB restrictions in the area. It's funny you bring that up. Well, yeah, Dave, it's funny you bring that up because the Black Crowes played there, I know, on Saturday, and I had no idea that show was in town, Black Crowes and Whiskey Myers, until that afternoon, and I would have went because I love the Black Crowes, but these guys had a huge dinner planned for me. I would have never made it in time for my birthday, but I know that show was there on Saturday.
And they have a curfew. I've always heard they had a curfew. You got to stop by 11 or 11:30. It just really sapped the excitement out of the show, And I'll never forget it for that purpose. Really, it sucked.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dave. Appreciate the call. The curfew thing is very, very, very common. Most venues have curfews. And most of the time it's 11 o'clock. And most of the time it's related to unions. Again, a lot of the major venues have unions that control them. And if you go overtime past the curfew, you, meaning the artist or the promoter, are going to pay a tremendous amount of money per minute that you go past curfew. A lot of these venues will have a digital clock right up in the corner of the stage so the artist can see what time it is. They will have a road guy on the corner of the stage motioning, stop, stop, stop playing. And you may have to cut your encores. A lot of artists now, what they're doing is they're not cutting it that close anymore. They're making sure they're done by 10:30. They're giving a half an hour cushion up against curfew. But if you're ever backstage and you see the stuff posted up in the hallways or whatever, it will tell you the curfew time. You do not want to go over curfew. It will cost you an insane amount of money. There are a few venues that don't have it. But for the most part, most venues do. So that is not unusual. But the dB limits, meaning decibels, the amount of sound, that can be an issue based on residential areas in the area, houses and stuff outside, and it being too loud if you live in that area, where the sound guy cannot work the soundboard past a certain amount. There's literally a governor on it. I told that story many times about the time seeing Jason Bonham a few years ago at the Greek. Everyone told me the Greek is the best venue in LA. It's such a cool place. It is a cool place. But I could talk to the person next to me in a whisper and they could hear me fine, and I'm trying to hear Led Zeppelin music. Got so frustrated, I swore I'd never go back there. I left halfway through the show, and I found out that was the reason for it. So when I went back a few months ago to see Youngblood, I did it very, very hesitantly, but I said, okay, let me give it another shot. It was better. It was certainly more than acceptable for that show for whatever reason. But the Bonham show was brutal in terms of sound. But yeah, I knew about that venue. I'd never been to the venue that he was talking about, but I was just in Houston and somebody said, like 3 people came up to me, oh, you going to the Black Crowes? And I was technically off Saturday night, but again, it was, I had a wonderful birthday dinner and there's no way I could have done both things. Let's get a couple more in here before we got to call it. Here's Andy in Massachusetts. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, Ed. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
As far as the Kiss first pitch, I think they're going to be probably each of them 20 feet off the plate. They'll have 2 catchers, and they'll throw it at the same time.
Could still be risky, man. I'm telling you, people don't realize how difficult especially if you don't throw a ball. Now, hopefully they practice a little bit, because I'm telling you right now, even at 20 feet, if I had to throw a pitch into a catcher's mitt, I probably would miss it wildly. I haven't thrown a baseball, I can't remember in how long. I used to be pretty good, man. I used to have long tosses with my dad and everything, but that was many decades ago.
Yeah, and
it's a coordination
story. I have a funny story about artists being douche. I got to see Prince.
Hold on a minute. Andy just gave us. I just had a visual of a graphic. Like one day we're going to do a show, artists being douches. Joel, you think you could make a graphic for that? Can we do that tomorrow on the show?
Yeah, I'm on it.
I'm not even kidding you. That is a great, just the way you said that, Andy. It was like, holy shit, Joel should make a show that we should just do that as a call-in one day. Artists being douches. Put that out as the graphic on social media. Go ahead, Andy.
I got to see Prince. He played the Palladium in Worcester, which is a pretty small club. And the show was scheduled to start at 8, and he never went on till about 11:30. And I'm like, oh, man. And I think the reason was, again, because there was hot dogs being sold in the building, and Yeah, and I ended up leaving early because I had to work the next day, and but he was fantastic. What I did see.
Prince, there's also stories about Prince. I mean, Prince was known as a guy that was really could be out there. And thank you, Andy, and thank you for the idea for a great show. I seriously want to do that. We may have to change the name, but it's a great idea. I do like just calling it. Today we're doing artists being douches. It's fucking great. Prince was known as a guy like, don't look me directly in the eye. He played shows where he played in total darkness. He wouldn't put the lights on. He went a little bit of the Sly Stone route, which obviously Sly was a big influence on him. When he would show up, if he would show up, there was always some of that going on. So yeah, he was definitely kind of that sort of cut from that sort of cloth, no question. Here's Jean-Marie in Montreal. Go ahead, Jean-Marie.
Hello, Eddie.
Hey, what's going on today?
First off, I'm going to say, of course, hi to Baz. And, I have a few things I wanted to talk, but we're short on time, so I'm just going to go with the main thing.
Yeah, I got like 60 seconds for you before I got to end, so go ahead.
I saw the Di'Anno documentary, so thank you for the heads up. It is quite graphic. And, during that documentary, something came up to me, and I just find it weird that all these guys are like very known figures that have a lot of money, and they talk about him being a legend and everything, but this guy died because he couldn't afford his medical bills. And I always find it a bit weird that they just even the band let him get to that far before they helped him. So what are your thoughts on maybe that?
Well, I kind of talked about it at the time, and Jean-Marie's talking about the Di'Anno documentary, and we had Wes in here who made it. I kind of gave my thoughts on that once, and I've extremely limited time now to elaborate, but I can even tomorrow if you want. But, I do think you got to remember some of these guys have been out of the band for 40 years. They do not have a close relationship with them. And even though we as fans look at these people as being these vital parts of the history of the band and we live with these early records, the truth is most of these people that were in the band with, they don't see it like that. They see it like, oh yeah, there's somebody I played with 40 years ago. It doesn't mean anything to me right now. And they just don't feel compelled to step up. That being said, if you do watch, Steve Harris did help out to some degree with Di'Anno. But I do understand what Jean-Marie is saying, and there are various reasons for it, which I can elaborate on maybe at another time in more detail. Thank you for all the calls today. Good way to get the week started. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Keep an eye on socials. Let you know what we're doing tomorrow. Back live for this show tomorrow at 3 Eastern, and back on Hair Nation in minutes over on Channel 39.